Greetings, fellow scribes! Welcome back to the archive. This week, I continue my discussion of Dune Adventuresin the Imperium by talking about the political landscape that defines the default setting. Now, understand, every character is part of a house, and in fact, the group of PCs are all assumed to be part of the same house. And creating that house is part of character creation. But we'll get to that later. The big thing to remember is that because the PCs all work for the same house, even if they're a bunch of guards, the politics of the setting is going to impact them. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as we talk about how the spice must flow. When all is said and done with the politics of Dune, one thing, and one thing only, is at the ultimate core. Is the ultimate thing that moves everything. And that is the spice. The spice has many effects. It allows the Spacing Guild navigators to do their traveling without moving. It allows the extended lives of the greater nobles. It's connected in some regards to the Benny Gesserit abilities. But ultimately, the big thing is, since the spice occurs on only one planet, whoever controls that planet ultimately controls the universe. Because the spice is the thing that keeps everything going in the Imperium. But beyond that, what goes on? Well, let's kind of take this broad overview. The Chome Company holds the ability and the sole discretion over who holds the title, the governorship of Arrakis. Which of the great houses gets to be in charge of the source of the spice. So, they're kind of the big movers and shakers in the universe. The Padishah Emperor has some influence with the Chome Company because he's kind of the director of it. But ultimately, the Chome Company makes its decisions on who runs Arrakis by itself. The Spacing Guild needs the spice. As I mentioned, the navigators for the Spacing Guild, they basically bask in rooms filled with spice gas, and that allows them to handle the moving their guild highliners from one place to another without moving. It's essentially a sort of spaceful technology, but not quite. And the guild, well, let's face it, the guild is important because they are the only form of interstellar travel. So, if the guild isn't with you, they can do things like blockade you. Just by saying, yeah, we're not going to send anything there. They can bring members of the great houses to a planet to force a discussion. And basically that's the thing. The guild, since they handle and have a complete monopoly on interstellar travel, they get to decide anything related to interstellar travel. Well, the Chome Company gets to determine where the spice goes. And The Chome Company needs the guild to keep the spice flowing to the rest of the galaxy. So, those two are kind of a block. They work very, very well together because they are symbiotic. And from there, you get all the rest of politics. You have the great houses of the Landsraad. The houses like House Carino, the House of the Padishah Emperor. House Harkonnen, House Atreides, etc., etc. All the big movers and shapers. The most important houses. And from there, of course, you have the minor houses, the lesser houses, and the houses that are just starting off. That could eventually become one of the great houses. But, well, let's face it. The great houses like to keep things in check. And to deal with certain issues. Well, let's face it. When you have nobles, you have people who don't like each other. Now, you don't want humanity going to war with humanity again. So, what has come into being is a ritualized form of shadow war called Canly. This involves basically using proxies and assassins and stuff like that. And basically the purpose of it is to allow the great houses to get their pound of flesh from each other without destroying huge swaths of the Imperium. Because great houses, first off, they control more than one system. Lesser houses are basically given fiefdoms from the great houses at the great houses' tolerance. The only world that does not have a permanent great house over it is Arrakis. And much prestige comes with a Chome Company contract to administer Arrakis. Because, of course, the spice must flow. Of course, in addition to the interactions between the great houses, which is the standard, we want prestige, we want greatness, we want recognition, you have the Bene Gesserit meddlings. Things like the whole concept of an Atreides daughter could be married to a Harkonnen heir, thus sealing the breach between the two houses. Sort of thing. The whole, they're trying to breed the super being, the Kwisatz Haderach. But at the same time, they're meddling in the affairs of the different houses. They're arranging marriages to try and bring about their own political stability, etc., etc. The goals of the Bene Gesserits are, of course, their own. Now, you have a tool in all these politics. The Benny Lilacs. These are, well, the ultimate assassins. They can change their faces to look like anything. Even one of their targets. They can infiltrate and do espionage, but they can also do quiet, straightforward assassinations. And of course, they're renowned for their discretion. They will never tell who hired them. And yes, they basically have a whole slew of implants and physical training and other forms of stuff that lets them change and reshape and remold their faces. Of course, in addition to all of this, you have the minor houses. The minor houses of the Landsraad, the lesser, the minor, the newfound fledgling houses. These are where things get interesting, because all of these lesser houses are in the shadow of the great houses of the Landsraad, and they have one goal: to move up, to become recognized, to stand on their own and become great houses in their own right one day. Processes that can take generations if they're lucky. And this is the world that you as players are thrust into. Playing as representatives of a house. Trying to push your interests. Trying to grow your prestige and power and all that fun stuff. While trying to not get killed off by representatives of other houses who have a vendetta against you, or be manipulated by the other factors. And that's the rough overview of the politics and political situation of the Imperium. My next video, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the core game mechanics. After that, I will talk about the character creation and house creation rules. So until next time, I'd like you all to remember to have fun and keep gaming.